So today, in Boris Johnson's madcap government, he announced he is going to go to the Queen to ask her to suspend Parliament so he can force through a no-deal Brexit. So the unelected Prime Minister, unelected by the general public, he was elected by about 300,000 people out of 60 million, is going to an unelected head of state monarch to ask her to suspend the democratically elected Parliament so he can force through his no-deal Brexit without having to answer to them. He's showing more and more signs of becoming a tyrant, isn't he? Now, these people who voted to leave the EU, the hardline Brexiteers, who are always talking about how they hate the fact that the EU undermines our democracy, it undermines parliamentary sovereignty. They're now cheering for a man who wants to do exactly that. He wants to completely ignore the democratically elected representatives of this country. He wants to completely ignore them so he can force his way through. Now, the Leave EU website during the EU campaign put on their website that we would not make any legal moves to leave the European Union unless we had a deal. And now we're having to override our democratically elected parliament. Our unelected prime minister is trying to override our democratically elected parliament via our undemocratically unelected queen so he can force through no deal, which a lot of people don't want. And not only a lot of people, a lot of our representatives don't want, a lot of political parties don't want, pretty much everyone doesn't want, except for this fringe, hard line of the Brexiteer group. So that's what he wants to do. He's showing more and more signs of becoming a despot and a tyrant, and I think this is going to backfire hard in his face. Because if you understand how our system works, the system we've all agreed upon, every time we go to the polls and vote in for an MP or a government or a mayor or any sort of legally democratic representative in the UK, we're agreeing to this system. And it goes as thus. Every 5 years, you go to the polls and you elect a representative to represent your area, your constituency in London, in Westminster. And they go there once they've been elected and they speak on your behalf. So all the issues that you've sent them through email or letters or face-to-face meetings, they go and they talk in Parliament on your behalf, and they try and get answers from the Prime Minister and from the government about what we can do about this issue. That's how it works. That's how democracy, modern democracy, works. So to say you're pro-democracy, you want democracy, and then to cheer for a man who wants to completely ignore democracy in order to get us out of the EU without a deal. Never mind the fact that a lot of these prominent Brexiteers, Nigel Farage and such, were talking about a deal during the EU campaign. Nigel Farage said Sweden and Iceland and all these other countries get deals and they're not technically part of the EU, why can't we? But now it's all gone to pot and Theresa May's deal wasn't worth shit. And that's all gone to pot and there's no option but find a deal or leave without a deal. Now they're saying, oh well, we should just leave without a deal, that's what we voted for, that's what we wanted. No! There was nothing on the ballot paper to suggest just leaving. That's it. Goodbye. Nothing. And yes, you can argue the other side and say there was nothing to talk about a deal either. But that's ludicrous. Because we've been part of the EU for 40 plus years. You wouldn't end a 40-year marriage without some sort of legal arrangement. Who gets what? Who controls what? Who gets access to what? Would you? Nobody in their right mind would just say, right, I'm off, see you later, I'm not taking nothing with me, I'm just leaving, not even packing a bag, I'm off. You wouldn't do that. In order to end a marriage in this country, most people go through the courts and they go through solicitors and lawyers and they work out how to end the marriage in a way that suits both parties. Why the fuck are we leaving a bloc of 27 nation states that we've been part of for 40 years and we're not even trying to find a deal? We are willing to actually suspend our democratically elected representatives in order so that our undemocratically elected Prime Minister can force his will. It's becoming more and more despotic. And the government is now saying that because they want a Queen's speech, that it's not unusual for a new government to have a Queen's speech. And yes, they're right. But 9 times out of 10, the new government is elected in general election. And they're saying it's not unusual if they've got a new government with new ideas that needs new legislation. It's all very ominous, all this speech about new ways, new government. It's all very fascistic. Boris Johnson needs watching. He needs watching. Next general election, I hope you remember that he actually tried or wants to go over the heads of the people we democratically elect. Because when you go to the polls, you don't elect a Prime Minister. You elect a member of a party in your local area. That's who you elect. And whoever gets the most representatives, what party, they form the government. And the leader of that party becomes Prime Minister. That's how it works. That's what we've all agreed upon. So if Labour gets more constituencies, Jeremy Corbyn becomes Prime Minister. If Conservatives get more constituencies, Boris Johnson becomes Prime Minister. And if nobody really gets an overwhelming majority, some sort of coalition is formed. That's how it works. That's what we've agreed upon. So I hope you remember the next polls, the next general election. Remember this day. Because our Prime Minister doesn't care about democracy. All he cares about is his cult of no deal. His cult of hard Brexit. Just remember it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.